All right, y'all. Welcome to the next installment of the Dismount Podcast. And today we are talking domesticated, taming a wild beast to love. Sounds like a really interesting, weird conversation topic.
Sounds like what Anastasia does with you.
Talking about something that happens every day.
Taming a wild beast to love.
Yeah, the story of Zach's life.
I cleaned up a little bit, getting prepped for the hair model later this Thursday. That's why we got another different look today. We've tamed the beast from last week and we've cleaned him up a little bit. But anyways, today, what the hell are we talking about? We are talking pets, animals, and all the fun characters that you've had in your life that have taught you some crazy shit. So, getting right off into it, we're just rolling right into the first topic of the day, soul pets. Okay? Soul pets. Now, for me, I had Bosco, and Bosco is not on. He's neither of these guys right here. All right, that's Ruby, and that's Herschel. Bosco was, holy shit. I'll get real emotional talking about him, but I will say I think it's because I haven't fully given enough time to like really sit down and just like exponentially grieve him. Like I've grieved him so much. I was in a tough place for a long time whenever I lost him. And like I sit here and like we got a picture of him and my niece that I'm painting in this corner, and that my niece is now 9. All right. My niece is now 9 and she's like 3 in this photo. So this photo has been sitting here for way too long. I tried to finish it recently. Like you can see, like I actually did Bosco's head, but I just was sitting there and I wasn't putting enough like detail into it, and I was just trying to like accomplish it and get it done, and that upset me. And I was like, nope, I gotta wait until I have the time. I will have the time at some point in time in life to sit down and give this the amount of energy that I want to. But right now it's just not that time. Anyways, Bosco, what a G. He was an absolute. This was, I think when it came down to soul pets for me, when we were talking this topic, it had to be something that I could sit here and say, damn, my higher self totally sent that to me. Like Bosco was that dog that came to me, that was this Zen master who came to me in such a weird transition period in my life where I was going from this like super nerd, didn't go to a single party in high school, to like the dude streaking through the street like Animal Party. Like it was just a massive like 180 transition that happened there. And like Bosco, like while I was having all that fun and like partying and just drinking too much and all that kind of stuff, I won't say every, because that's a bold statement, but regularly it was up super early on a Saturday to take him down to Ohio Pal to go for a hike, and you pulled out this saddlebag, man. If you pulled out this saddlebag, he was, and he was all jazzed up because he knew we were going on an adventure. And that was like, he felt so proud to like put his snacks and his treats in his bag, and he was walking down the trail. And the one thing that I loved about Ohio Pal was, and just looking back on when we were typing all these notes and stuff out for this episode, I had to sit here and really, really break down the fact that how amazing those experiences were with him. Because when we would just go down to this one spot, and it's a very busy spot in Ohio Pal. It's where everybody really hikes, and it's right by all the stuff. But we'd get there so early that there was hardly everybody ever there during the time that we were there, and you lose cell service. So like that little section, you lose cell service, and it's just awesome because I felt like a kid again, man. Like I was just run those trails with him, and like Haas jokes now, like, wow, you're pretty nimble when it comes down to being on trails and stuff. Like, especially when we go up to McConnell's Mill and it gets real choppy at McConnell's Mill. Like I'll just like, because Bosco and I used to go up there too. And we'd fly through the trail together, and like no cell service. You just totally lost yourself, and you were completely in the moment with this guy, man. I mean, stories on stories for that guy, but like that's to me was like, I sat there and thought about it like, this dog was 100% sent by my higher self back to me to be like, to keep me on the journey that I was heading on. And I feel like I've gotten to this point now, like, especially like sitting here with you guys and like, you know, I ride with homie every day. Like homie's like collar is in the pocket behind my driver's seat. And that was something that I was thinking about too. And I know this is kind of like a side note, but like I have these like momentums, or, you know, I got his leash, I got his saddlebags, I got his collar that rides with me all the time. And I thought about it and I was like, man, if someone was to like steal my car, or like I was to lose these things, like I haven't lost any of what it is of him because they're all here. But I never really put so much weight on those things. Like they've just been riding with me, you know, like they're not to a point where like I'm guarding these things with my life and like my life would be shattered if I lost them. And I think was something that I was taught by him too, was like, it was all about like living in the moment, experiencing it, and then moving on. And that was him. That was him. So for you, like, share, please. Soul dog. Soul pet.
Before I jump into my soul dog, I got to give a shout out to Bosco and how dope Bosco was, because we would go out to go throw disc golf. We would play disc golf, and as soon as you took him off the leash, that's like, usually I'm in the city, I grew up in the city, and I'm like, don't unleash your dog. I see all these people are like unleashing their dog down, we'll just say like North Side, for example, down by like the Taco Bell. They got like 2 dogs walking. I'm like, don't do that, man. I don't care how well your dog is trained. But then it was like refreshing because Bosco immediately had a presence about him. We were out disc golf, middle of the woods. As soon as you took the leash off, like, that's my dude. That's my dude right there. He's just chilling. He's going around. My dogs, any dog I've ever had, you can't take them off the leash outside the gate. They just go, and then you got like 20 minutes of exhaustion ahead of you, and you're just like, why did I do that? But Bosco immediately, as soon as you took the leash off, you could sense the vibe that he's pretty G. Our soul dog, I'll introduce the way that we introduced him to our mom. So I think it was Mother's Day, and it was lacrosse season, my freshman year, so that would be 2008. So we just had a dog pass away the year before, and we had another dog, Dolly, her dog mate, more or less. And Dolly was sitting around, kind of moping around, and then my mom, she came home, Mother's Day. She goes, "Where's my dog?" And next thing you know, there's this little tiny baby cow just sitting wagging his tail, looking at her from a cage in the living room, probably about like 5 pounds. And she goes, "Whoa, that's not my dog." That's how we introduce what almost unanimously has been agreed on, our soul dog within our family. He's through all the trials and tribulations of my mom's health. You know, she has since had a pancreas and kidney transplant, but you know, he's there for like all of it. He's there for a lot of like the really difficult times, and even for the Arizona Cardinals Steelers Super Bowl year, we wouldn't let him off of any of our laps because we were like, this is superstitious, and then they end up winning the Super Bowl, and you know, so he became a lap dog after that year. It was locked in. But another sweet thing he always did was he would steal your seat after you got up, but he wouldn't steal to sit like a dog. Whatever way you're sitting, if there's an armrest, you put your right hand on it, and then you get up, you come back, and he has like, there's a picture I had done in print. Matt should have brought it in, but there's a picture I redid in printmaking of him stealing my seat and then putting his paw on the iPad. So he just like had his paw on the iPad like he was scrolling or something. He came back, and I looked at the seat, and he looks back like, "Oh, you're interrupting." And I was like, "Oh, sorry, I must be interrupting you playing on my iPad in my seat in my house. Okay, sorry, my bad."
What a dignified gentleman.
Yeah, but it was so great. But yeah, I would say that Buddy is unanimously our soul dog for different reasons. He also was probably the fastest and shiftiest out of all of them. And when he got out, it was like a full neighborhood effort.
Dude, what a cool top. Like that for me, like I'm sitting here and like didn't even put two and two together. Like, oh shit, what about a sold dog for an entire family? Like that is cool as fuck, dude. Like, wow. Like I can remember we had Rollins like early, and that was my first dog that I had ever had. And man, I could look back and see how that dog might have been a soul dog for the family. He wasn't my soul dog, but like, that's cool. That's a cool whole different transition topic right there, man. A soul dog for a whole fam.
Yeah, think about it. It's 5 different personalities that you're thinking, 5 different temperaments, 5 different, like, even though it's the same house, everybody grows up in a different house, if you know what I mean.
Dude, he's the glue to all of you. That's pretty awesome.
And he's definitely sweet. And he also, since he was black and white, he was like an Oreo colored, but he also had like a perfect number 3 on his back. It was kind of badass. So all the black surrounded the white and formed a number 3. I forgot about that. Yeah, it was like, this is pretty cool. Anthony for lacrosse, I think his final number he ended with was number 4. And then my final number for lacrosse I ended with was number 2. So then he's right in between.
Dude, that's pretty awesome.
But yeah, we since then I gotta give a shout out to Gino. Gino's like his younger brother. He came in afterwards. Those two were like glue. You know, whenever Buddy passed, man, Gino went through like a little depression. He just kind of, we joked around, called him Igor for a little bit because he just moseyed around, but he'd still be sweet. But then we had the same thing all over again because Gino and Buddy hated Gino. Gino loved Buddy. And then he got a taste of his own medicine. He went through that grieving process. And then afterwards, then Gino had to deal with another younger little shit. And that little shit was his son. So we bred Gino with a family friend's dog. So then they had 3 offspring, and then we took one of them. And at first he was like, I hate you. He was like, leave me alone. Get out of my house. He'd turn back like, can you guys please get rid of him? Like this was kind of for a week, but like, when's he leaving? It was like, he's not leaving. He's like, all right, well, then I'm going to eat his puppy food.
Put this guy in his place.
Yeah, I'm going to eat his food, tell him what's up. And then we rescued another dog, Rocco. And Rocco was a little stinker. He still is. Bark, 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 bark. Whine, whine. And, you know, basically just like a little schemer. You could eat a burrito in 3.5 seconds whole.
Oh,
while he's running away.
damn.
And I say that out of experience.
I say that out of experience.
But anyway, those are the ones I just had to give them some honorable mentions. But
You had a serious connection.
Yeah, well, I had 2 actually. I had Mojo. Mojo is our dog, and like that when you guys were talking about different dogs and how they connect with your family or not, I think it was interesting that it's cool to see the way they kind of cling to a certain person. Like it might be a family dog to start, but like Mojo like slept with me every night. I took Mojo to the Regina house after I moved out and kind of had his last days there, which was cool. And he died of older age. Like he was an older pup. It's funny to mention actually on a sidebar, Seamus we actually got right after Mojo. He just passed last week. Yeah, so yeah, but like he was a goated member of our family, Seamus. He was a 16-year-old little Yorkie mix type dog, dude. There we go. They got a new pup already. Tucker. He looks just like him. It's like I went over the other day. I'm like, oh, it's just another little dog here already, you know. So that was really cool to see they got a new member already. But Mojo for sure as I was younger, and then Kodak definitely came at a time that was interesting for me. I got Kodak back in 2017, and that was right after I dealt with the Lyme disease stuff. So for people who didn't know, I couldn't use my face for a while. As people who know me very closely know that was a very interesting time in my life. But I remember the picture I have of going home with Kodak was like my mouth was still pried open because I couldn't close it. So there's like Kodak sitting on my lap for coming home from Animal Friends. I'm like driving home like you know, like my mouth wide open. But yeah, he was interesting. Like the saw him, I knew that was the dog I was supposed to take home.
It wasn't that he escaped from, the pound 4 times.
Yeah, my little penitentiary pup. Yeah, there was just something there. You go into these like animal shelters, and I mean, these poor dogs, a lot of them spend there a lot of days there. And for him, he's 2.5 years old when I adopted him. He spent most of his life in a shelter. They found him running away, which I went to learn that was his thing. He would just sprint. And then when I would chase him, it was a game. But when I went to the shelter and saw him, that dog just like sitting there quietly in the corner. He has no interest in being here at all. I was like, I wonder what's up with that guy. And the second we got him outside, just full sprint, insane person type energy. And man, this dog is really cool. He's going to be a handful, but I'm like, I think this is the move. And yeah, I mean, he definitely taught me a lot about selflessness. He got me out of I think it's cool how they get you out of your own habits. Like, you don't have a choice, especially with him and like not having a yard, living in the city. He had to go out all the time. Like, I'd be out on walks. I got myself out of like just sitting around doing nothing. And if he didn't pay attention to those, that's when he would make his escape. Like, oh, dude, you haven't walked me in 3 hours? Cool, I'm gonna go walk myself around the entire neighborhood in traffic. Like, no, you can't do that. But it was always cool to see with him, like there was an understanding between us of he wasn't provided a home ever, so I don't think he ever took that for granted, and he was willing to give that back to me, and like the energy I got of just always being there when I needed him, always making sure that when I came home, he was still hyperactive, still his insane self, but found ways to still give himself to me. And that relationship we had was really cool. He was still the penitentiary dog all the way to his last day. He still found his way to get in trouble all the time. But it was cool because he got me into so many places I wouldn't have taken myself. And I appreciate that about him, even losing him sooner than I wanted to. I think there was, for the 5 years that I had him, a really, like you said, a deep meaning as to why he was there. There was a reason why I wanted him the day I saw him. There was a reason why I overlooked all the issues that came with him, and that's something I'm definitely happy that I had gone through to make sure that, put myself out there, put myself in an experience I was kind of hesitant about at first, but obviously it's something that paid off. And it's interesting to see how that affects you long term. Like you mentioned, the grieving process of it. Like, you lose a dog like that, it does become tough. And I think, like, I'll get a dog again one day for sure. That's something that I've always been a dog person. But as I get older, you have to realize the difference in making sure that you don't take them for granted where they're here, but also I think the importance of like grieving that properly in the future. Like, I don't think that's something I've actually let myself come to terms with fully. And it's funny how, you're right. You don't need like their collar or their toys around, stick with you. Like, you have that with you no matter what. But when I lost him, it was not the easiest for me. So I think in the future, like looking at dogs, like I'll take that a little more seriously next time, because I think they're owed that at the end of it. Like, you want to make sure you have closure on that side. And not to say that I don't, because it's been almost 2 years at this point, but I think there will be a different process next time, just because you want to make sure that you give them anything. Like, I think a lot of times in life with like death in general, I've just kind of, okay, I'm just going to like get through it. Like, I'm not going to emotionally allow myself to accept this early on. And I think that's something maybe I'll change in the future. But just dealing with him and his passing, it was cool to still be able to take a step back and be like, really offered me a lot that maybe I'd even realize until after he was gone.
Someday soon, I definitely want to go down to John's Hillside down in Uniontown and just spend an evening literally just sitting there and just thinking about all the lessons that we learned from these guys. I find all of like the things that he did were just wild.
Yeah.
And there was so much to him. And like his passing, dude, that was a crazy evening.
I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that. So my dog was really sick for the better part of 2 or 3 weeks. And the day he passed, you were both there. My girlfriend, who wasn't my girlfriend at the time, was there. Come over. It's like the second time she met my dog, but like we were just hanging out like it was a normal night. Like, we were watching fights and just kind of, he was not doing well, but he was a trooper, dude. Even when he was sick, like his worry was me, which was how he was. That's how our relationship went. And it was the interaction with you and him was nuts. Like
Crazy.
I'll never forget that because Zach was sitting in the corner of my living room with him, and I'm just kind of like, I was watching Nate Diaz. I'm like, Nate Diaz is fighting. I'm like, I've had a rough few days. My friends are here. Dog's fine. I'm watching this fight. Everything's cool. And then, dude, like, hair stand on your back type shit with you. Like, hey, man, I think he's about to go. And I'm like, dude, it's like the third round of the fight. I'm like, I'm just like trying to watch the fight. And like, I didn't really take it seriously. And then, like, the second I turn around, it's so wild. And I know people will talk about even humans and passing. Like, there is an energy shift in the room, and there is a way that I don't know how you knew. And again, that's a transcendent type thing, but to turn around and see exactly what you meant, you could feel it instantaneously. Like I shifted my energy towards that, and I mean, within a couple minutes, he was gone.
He changed my entire life that evening. That was the hands down, the probably one of the most impactful things that's happened to me. Looking at him, petting him, and telling him, it's all right, buddy. I got him. He'll be all right. And him looking back at me and just like, kind of like, not really winking, but like kind of like giving you like the side eye, like he understood.
He probably should have died a week before he did, honestly. He was in straight kidney failure. Like, he couldn't hold anything. He wouldn't eat. There was nothing left. But dude, when I say that dog had human tendencies, I mean in the sense that he understood what you were saying. Like, it's okay. You were conveying this message of, it's okay. You don't have to be proud. You can rest then. And then he understood, which is nuts. It's nuts.
Having that ability to, that communication, whatever spiritual shit happened that evening, and I shouldn't say shit because this is a very like impactful thing. I shouldn't ruin it with swear words, but like whatever like crazy spiritual stuff went on that evening, or whatever like energy capabilities of being able to read that type of stuff, that was wild, man.
Yeah, it reminds me of, and not so much the outcome, because I don't think Bosco didn't pass that night that we were all over, was it?
Having that,
He did, but they put him
you
down.
you guys,
That's
all,
right. They ended up,
you guys all came over to his burial, basically.
and that's another night that stands out. Yes, he was put down in a different manner, like he was euthanized, and that was just due to his illness. But that reminds me of that night too. Like, there's some energy around those types of evenings where it's something very hard to forget. And people who don't want to compare human beings and animals, I just disagree. I've been in rooms where I've lost family members like that night, and that energy compares, man. There's something to it that I'll never forget, being over at your parents' house or Bosco, seeing him and just everyone being there for him. And you could tell he also understood that too. Like, he was sick, and just the way my dog was. And to see them, and it goes to show how important the companionship level of that is. They want to give you, they do give you a lot more than you give them. And for Kodak specifically, for me, it was so crazy to see you kind of have to convince him that it was cool. Like, you can rest now. And even that evening at Bosco, you could tell like there was this, okay, we want to make sure that you're comfortable, that you know, like, this is about you. We are here for you now.
There's an amazing lady out there, and I don't know if she's still doing it, but her company was called A Gentle Hospice. And so A Gentle Touch, and she did pet hospice and that kind of stuff. So she'll come into your house and she'll euthanize your dog in your house. And it's pretty awesome. Like, it's a great experience. Like, you get to do it. I shouldn't say it's a great experience, but
It's the less of
it's
I would recommend it to anybody.
it's so I have not experienced putting my dog down at a vet. And if someone's experienced putting their dog down at a vet, I've been told that it is literally just like you're taking your dog into like a production facility almost.
I was so much more emotional about putting down Mojo than I was about Kodak passing up. Like, it still beat me up long term for sure, but having to take Mojo, because he lived at the Regina house, I think kidney failure was the issues with him too, but of like the fact that he was 14, 15, it was just an old age thing. And kind of having to take him in on like Tuesday night by myself, my family dog, to a vet, be like, yeah, he's been sick. I don't know. He's not been the same. He doesn't have the energy. He's peed in the bed a couple times while we're sleeping. It's been weird. You have to put him down. Kind of have to. Like right now, yeah. Like he's not going to eat. He's not going to drink. He's suffering. And to make that decision, when I got it was probably 20, kind of half 25. So I'd had him since I was 11 or 12. Got that dog with my family. Kind of had to make that decision by myself that night to be there with him while we put him down. Heavy, dude.
Yeah.
Very, very heavy. And I'll never forget. They were like, "Oh, do you want to take the blanket you brought him in with?" No, I do not want that blanket. I'm going to cry my fucking eyes out the second I walk out this. I barely made it out the door. And you're right. Like it doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel the way it should. It's something where if I do it in the future, that's the way I would approach it. It caught me by surprise, which I think led to it being somewhat traumatizing.
Yeah.
You can see the difference in how that was approached.
Yeah, she'd come into your house and she did a full assessment to make sure the dog was obviously, like, you weren't just trying to euthanize any dog. But when she saw Bosco's legs, she was like, "Oh, okay, yep, we're understood why we're here." And she had been there before for Rollins when we put Rollins down at our house. But this is one of those people that, like, you sit there and this person changes your whole view on society. Like for me, like my mom hates professional sports because she thinks that all these punk ass people are just getting paid way too much money to throw a football or just entertain people. Hey, to each his own. But like when you see someone lady like this who does this amazing service, who is consistently just putting dogs down, and like, could you imagine like the emotional, like constantly going into people's houses and just watching all these people like bawling and crying? Like that lady should have a fucking pile of gold sitting in her house. But no, we got jabronis on TV who are burning their feet off to get onto a different team. Like, what the hell's wrong with this society? You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's where like the whole breakdown of everything happened for me was through animals. Like through animals, I was shown how much nature and like all of that kind of stuff versus like the technology and the city stuff. I know which side I want to be more leaning towards, but you know, that would transition us into dogs in general, or animals being like these healing capabilities of them, right? And like, what have you experienced, Tit? Like I feel like you have some stories.
Yeah, I want a second mention of my dog Buddy. That fact that he was just there. My mom, she's gone through kidney failure, and then she's had diabetes for years, and then while she's feeling a lot of pain, exhaustion, all kinds of different things, like I think her leg and muscle, like part of her leg muscle died. Like, so my mom has been through the ringer, and he was there hanging out with her like the whole time. He'd be with us or with her and just keeping company. Same with Dolly. Felt real bad for our dog Dolly. My mom just got a kidney, and then my dog got kidney failure. So my mom felt super guilty, like survivor's guilt. Like I made it through, but my wingman didn't. So that was pretty rough for my mom. But those dogs were there for that. I remember this is a really strange and odd story, but since we went through we all live in Pittsburgh around the area, the three of us. We just went through a heat wave. We're still going through like a couple heat waves. And if you can imagine 90-some degree weather, you're a little kid. You just got a Sheetz burrito and it has jalapenos on it, and you just cooked your stomach. So you're in 90-degree heat, cooked your stomach, and then you're sitting between your mother who's driving and your grandmother who's in the passenger seat, and you're squashed in the middle. So you got that heat, your stomach's burning, and then your little dog just crawls on your stomach, and you're like, not now. This is one of the worst moments of my life where my stomach's just eating itself. And then she just insisted on being there. I'm like, fine. I'm dripping sweat, no AC. And then I'm like, where'd that pain go? The hell? That was like 30 seconds and it's gone. And then she just kind of looked at me like, you're welcome. Ain't no thing. But she was pretty much like, she was like a cat almost, but like she had that kind of person, I don't want to be left alone. But But we've had all kinds of different like dogs like that. They just like have this like sense or aura or know. And I don't know if this is true, but I've read that dogs actually use their saliva gland is helpful for like open wounds. So like certain dogs, if back, I think it was ancient Greeks, they used to let dogs lick open wounds. So in that way it would help heal. But I've also heard research that contradicts that too. But saying that you can get infections.
Isn't that where a dog's mouth is cleaner than a human's mouth phrase comes from?
Probably.
You know, and then you watch that dog lick its own ass and you're like,
You just licked my
I
crotch.
wonder if it's cleaner. I know what I'm feeding you.
Eat shit.
Yeah, our dog Dolly did eat shit. She was just like, it was delicious.
I'm not keeping track of the scoreboard at home, but I can't tell you the last time I ate shit.
Dog's like, that food tastes like shit. Correction, my shit tastes better than that food. I was like, stop eating the poop. Give me some better food. I don't know what you want to tell me. Like, it just tells you how much I don't like my food.
Yeah.
I think we did switch her food, but like, it was funny. But yeah, I've definitely felt like Charlene had a huge ability to heal, and she used to do this thing. My dog Dolly, if I lay on my stomach watching TV, Dolly would lay between my legs on the back, and then Charlene would crawl on the arch of my back, and I'd just be like, all right, I guess I'm not moving for the next 30 minutes. But yeah, so I feel like dogs, they do that through, the service that they do too. We have a bunch of service animals out there and about. Our cat Rory is a service animal for my wife, and I just happen to be a benefactor of her love, both of them. But yeah, I think that they do huge service. We have bomb sniffing dogs. We have dogs that help blind people see. Dogs that even can help sense like diabetic. I don't know what you call it. I guess it'd just be low blood sugar. They can sense when you have low blood sugar, then they'll start to bother you, and they'll be like, "Hey, it's about to happen." They can smell it. We also have our drug dogs. Ones that are sniffing out like cocaine, all kinds of different things.
Don't get too close.
Yeah.
It seems like dogs have it seems like animals are kind of like what, I would think like plants are, and like all the stuff that everybody likes to start like consuming to try to have these outer body experiences. Like I would say that those all have they're so much more in tune to actual energy and like the frequency of what our nature is and like what our actual planet and existence is, that it's like your dog laying on your stomach. Like there's all these cool things that I've been finding recently. Like, and I found this one dude who's been making these orgone shapes that have like amazing like capabilities to like take in negative energy and like transmit out positive energy. So you're buying these because of how much cell towers we have and everything now to try to like clean up the aura and the whole energy field around you. I feel like dogs and animals already have that like ability to like tap into that. And I feel like humans are just, man, we are really stupid, dude. Like we really don't know how to use ourselves or like our bodies or our energy. And I feel like there are some people like, but if you sit here and think about it, like your dog took away your stomach ache. Like, could you imagine if you had that capabilities to be able to transmute energy like that?
I mean, it's possible that we do. We just don't know how to use, like, we are electromagnetic beings. Well, I think probably like electrochemical magnetic beings. Like we just have these, like all of these juices flowing through us that are charged. And then we have like an EMP that goes off like every second. It's going off multiple times a second, or, maybe once a second. But yeah, our heartbeat just like transmits all of that, and we don't know how to use any of that, but you can tell whenever someone's in a bad mood before you even look at them, or you can tell when someone's looking at you and you don't even see them. You just turn around. I think that's one of the craziest phenomenons ever, but that's not really important to the subject. But we probably have some of those capabilities. We just don't know what we're doing.
I mean, could you imagine being a dog? And I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, if I'm reincarnating, I better come back as one of these badass animals. And, like, I really don't want to come back as a dung beetle.
Yeah.
I feel
that'd
like
be
I
such a
haven't been,
bummer.
I feel like I haven't been that big of an ass in my life that I had to come back and just stare at ass for, an existence.
Your whole existence, it's rolling balls of shit.
Yep.
I knew I should have been better.
I was that one time in math class.
Yep. I was in the McDonald's drive-thru. Beef to the lady. I said, "Come on, an order." Now I'm a dung beetle. No, what?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, the dogs and any animal healing capabilities, I think, just like you said, their instinctual awareness of the situation. It could be as obvious as me walking through my apartment and then just collapsing on the ground because I think it's funny, and my dog's sprinting over and like licking my face, like what the fuck happened? Like, I was just messing with you, dude. I was just messing with you. Or like coming home from a hard day at work, I would come home to my apartment like after working a long night and just sit on the kitchen floor. My dog would just come and sit directly between my legs and just sit there. He could have been waiting all day to go for a walk or a piss or whatever it may be, but he would, okay, cool. Like, I've been waiting for you to come home. Seems like you had a rough day. Don't need to talk about it. I'm sure it'll get me outside, but they know. And it's funny. And I'm sure a little bit it's like habitual, like, oh, there's Derek again, 8 o'clock at night, got to get me out. But yeah, this dude probably had a long day. Or, just being there for you in general, it always, it's never asked for. I never had to like have my dog come up like, oh, come here, dude, I'm not feeling so great. They know. Yeah. And it was always nice to have that because it never felt like I was just taking care of him.
Well, they say that and I'm using dogs, I'm sure a lot of other animals, but dogs are predominant for people, and most people have a yard nowadays because everybody wanted to go with grass instead of, nice gardens and stuff. But regardless, had to keep up with the Joneses. Shut the fuck up, Zach. Get to your point. And dogs run through the grass. And like we talked about grounding last week. And supposedly, like, dogs running through the grass and then coming back into your house and like you hugging your dog after them being outside, like, makes you feel so much better. And that's because you're grounding back onto your dog. Like, your dog is now taking all of that shit that you should have went and put your feet in the grass and released onto them. And that's pretty fascinating. That's where that whole, like, the dog climbing up on your stomach and just like taking that out of you, like, they have all of this like charged up in their system that they can just bring to you that positivity. And I'm going to mess it up right off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure you take in negative ions from the earth and you release positive ions. Like, you release the charge you're all built up, your static electricity, right? And so you want to take in those negative ions to bring you back down. I'm going to have to come back on that one for next week and make sure I don't sound like a jackass on this and said completely the wrong thing. So
to my say that's all fine and dandy, but not if your dog rolls around on dead birds all the time and then runs back inside like mine did. We go out, oh, what's he rolling around in? And pull up and it's just a dead pigeon. Yes, right.
He's like, that stuff's great.
Yeah. Like, you smell this shit?
Yes, it smells.
What would be your least favorite animal out there?
To my least favorite animal that someone has as a pet?
Domesticated animals. We don't have to go off into the wild blue
Normal
yonder.
domesticated animal.
The ones I just don't understand, and it's more ignorance than anything, would be small birds.
Okay.
Like a parakeet.
Okay.
I don't know. They seem cool, but I have an issue of just seeing a bird sitting in a cage that really doesn't do much. Or there are people that take the bird out and get around and let it fly around there. Yeah, that's all good. I just remember my grandma having a bird, and birds his only function was to sit there and bitch. Yeah, wasn't smart enough to speak. He just sat in the corner, didn't fly. Yeah, okay. Cool. Are you hungry or something? I don't like the yippy dogs either. I can't get behind the yippy dogs. Like, tiny, little, loud dogs. They don't do anything cool.
I feel like there was a purpose for them. Like, supposedly, like, little dogs, they went through sewer systems and they took out rats. And like, that's where like the little dogs were.
I have a little dog and he would tear out some rats. I'm all about that guy, dude.
That's
dope.
That's hard.
To sit in the corner and just shake and piss on the carpet, and that's not for me,
for
man.
me, and I'm not shooting. It's definitely not shooting any shots.
I mean, I'm not shooting specific shots at your dogs. I'm thinking a little smaller than your dog.
My dogs are a little bit bigger.
Right.
They're
I think
cool.
yours a more medium-sized dog, but the smaller dogs, man,
like a Chihuahua.
Yeah, Chihuahuas are fine, and I'm not picking on every small yippy dog in the entire world, but my least favorite interactions with domesticated animals are tiny little dogs who piss on the floor and just stare
Yell at you.
and yell at you.
I'm not huge on cats, but I've been coming back on the cats recently, and I know Anastasia's gonna break me down at some point in time. I'm gonna have at least a cat or two at some point in time in life. I'm not huge on cats, man. We had cats growing up, and like, I don't like, no connection. I had no connection to these cats.
Cats are an interesting one because I don't think it's I think it's harder to get a cat at an older age, like through adoption, and then try to mold it into a pet that fits your lifestyle or fits like your energy. With a dog, I felt like I could still get my dog at 2.5, 3 years old, and there was no issues there. With my girlfriend's cat, Milo, we got him when he was weeks old. So he knows nothing but being around her and me and how we've treated him and how we've raised him. So he's more molded to her and how we treat him and play with him and get him outside and take him on road trips with us. He's almost a dog in the sense of we just kind of treat him as such. Like, you're not a house cat, you're not lazy, you're to go outside, we'll put a harness on you, we'll put you in the back and take you to the mountains with us. He'll still be a cat for sure, but I think in the sense of trying to adopt an animal, it's a lot harder to get an older cat and have it fit you than it is to get a older dog and it be appreciative. And not that they're like one smarter than the other. I actually think cats tend to be more intelligent in a lot of senses, but it is interesting to see how that differentiates between the age and especially through adoption.
I would agree with the cats tend to be a little bit more sly.
They are sly. They're
yeah,
slick.
a little bit more on the edge.
They're
Because you always see, and I don't mean to cut you off,
No.
but you always see like the funny video of the dog and the cat duo team. It's always the cat like utilizing the dog. It's never like, it doesn't really seem like it's a team effort. It seems like the cat's the ringleader. It's like, you do this shit, man, so we could both get the goods,
Yeah. There's a manipulative tendency with the cat. He knows the environment. He knows, okay, that dog can do this. So if I get him to do that, then we're both good, or I'm going to benefit. They're smart in different instances. There are things that dogs do that cats would never, maybe out of not that dumb. So I'm not sure what it is, but yeah, I completely agree that you see the cats. I had my cat, Kitty, whose his name. We weren't smart kids, so we just named our cat Kitty. And then, of course, the cat we named Kitty lived to be like 27 years old. So could have given him a good name, but he was the smartest cat, and he knew how to piss me off. He knew how to get what he wanted, and having Mojo around him at the same time, they never really clashed or had like too much of a relationship, but you could see who the smart one was.
Gotcha.
And it wasn't the dog. It was never the dog.
It was always the cat outsmarting the dog.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny to see, like, dogs will do that too. They know how to get what they want, but cats don't need you to give it to them. They will take it.
Do you have any least favorite animals?
I would say I'm a fan of snakes, but my experience with snakes has been very boring and very dull. Fortunately. The words that come to mind is do something. I'm like, you just sit there and I almost think it's better to have a fish. I can watch a fish swim. That's cool. But then it's like, oh, you're gonna feed it? And I remember my buddy Anthony, he actually had one of those. It was cool. I remember he was like, yeah, I want to see me feed it. He pulls out frozen mouse, and I'm like, oh, well, I kind of like mice. Said, I get it. Chain of, circle of life. So put it in the terrarium, and it just sits there. Cool. All right, want to do something else? I didn't get to watch it eat. I just sat there, and then sometimes what it does, it's real boring. And it's like, man, this thing, we need to get a bigger terrarium. We need to get a live one running around. I want to say even lizards are more cool, because then I remember our old teacher, Mr. Whiteclaw, he had crickets, and he would bring it in to lizards and drop it in. So he would be like, all right, well, I got to break off one of the cricket's legs because they're pretty fast. But so they break one off, throw it in the tank, and then the lizard just come out and just grab it. And I'm like, yeah, that was awesome. So my standards for reptiles, like even a turtle, I'd probably rather watch a turtle just float around chilling, because they're just like vibing. But snakes kind of, unless I see a really cool snake, other than that, I'm like, well, I mean, you kind of got to do all that maintenance just to watch it sit there and it just wait for its food. Plus, I feel like it's unfair to the snake. He wants to go out and hang out and about. He doesn't want you to be staring at him on the other side of the glass.
Makes me think of the movie Road Trip. Isn't that Tom Green in Road Trip?
Yeah, that's
When he's
exactly what it's like.
"Oh, it's the Fury, Mitch." He's trying to get him to get the damn. Oh,
Doesn't he eventually gonna eat it? Oh,
yeah, he acts like he's gonna eat it. He puts it in his mouth. He puts it the whole way in his mouth. If you won't eat it, Mitch, I will.
yeah, that's pretty much what you're waiting for. So my least favorite is snakes. I'll even take the yippy dog over because at least I can hold the yippy dog. But yeah, snakes are kind of bum me out. I also had iguanas, so that kind of brings the standard up. Iguanas are cool. We used to take them out in the garden. We used to take our iguanas out in the garden, give it some fresh lettuce and stuff like that. I think it was either lettuce or tomatoes. We let them run out like they were a dog. We had one that was the size, I would say, without his tail, his body was like the size of a shoebox. And then the other one, probably the size of a water bottle. So we had one, called him Louis, and then Oscar was a big one. But yeah, so I'll put in the plug. Unfortunately, we had to get rid of Oscar and Louis whenever his tail came off, and someone put in the trash. And my mom came home and was like, said I didn't want to see the tail. That's it. It's done. So whichever one of us put the tail in the garbage was the one that messed up. So we had to get rid of it.
My brother had a ball python. You guys have been to my mom's house, like the old house, right? Yeah. So on the third floor is where my brother's room was, and he had this huge, I mean, the size of, like
This isn't Zach, right?
this is Tony.
Yeah.
Like the size of the dresser, like huge build out. Like I think, pretty sure he had built it or he had someone help build this huge snake habitat. And this sucker was huge, like balled up, humongous. And yeah, the fascination with having Natural Geographic TV shows in your household is very interesting to me because I just never got it, but I always felt that's what it was. Like the levels of domestication is so funny to see. Like, well, you can't take a snake on a walk. No, they would run away, like get me the fuck out of here. Or to see a snake in nature is so much more interesting. Like you see a snake in nature, everyone's like, oh shit, what's that guy doing? I know what the snake's doing in his habitat. He's gonna sit there pissed off, you know? The fact of the matter is one day the snake wasn't there.
Oh shit.
We never found the snake. I think he wanted freedom, bro. I think it was like a Shawshank Redemption for the snake.
He spooned his way out.
Yeah.
What if he's still in the walls of that
There's
house?
a good chance he is.
Oh,
Like those things
shit.
live forever, dude. There's a chance that snake is still in that house. If someone walked in there's a 20-foot, I don't know how big pythons get, dude. I'm not a snake guy, but there is a
I'm
full
not a
grown,
snake guy.
Yeah, you are. But anyway, a python somewhere in the walls of that house. It wouldn't shock me, but I know I lived in fear. It was like, it's probably correlated with the time that Snakes on a Plane came out, dude. I thought I was gonna have to call Samuel LL. Yeah, but the animals like that, it's funny to see the levels of domestication because I've never had an interest in those types of animals. I've always wanted like one of those the leopard geckos. Those old things always look so cool, like the cool patterns and whatnot. But I just felt like I would get so bored of it. And just like you said, the do something factor. Yeah, at a certain point, like you want to make sure, and there's certain people that are straight reptiles for sure, and I just, or the people that have crates full of spiders or something. It's never made sense to me, you know?
No, I can understand a fish tank. I don't understand any of the other things. Like, I don't know, maybe like I can understand the turtles maybe, but like the fish tank, like you can do so much with a fish tank to where it's not just the fish. Like you got live plants, you got all kind of different things you can do there. But like just putting a box and saying, here's snake, this is your fucking box, like that just,
box.
yeah, get in the box.
It's so funny to me because you can have
It's
a
like
snake.
it's already its coffin.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah,
damn.
hell.
Yeah.
You can have a snake in an inhabitant that you never take out of, but you treat it like it's out in the wild, right? But then you have a dog who you let run free in the yard, but if that dog tries to like kill a rabbit, you lose your fucking shit. And it's funny to see the difference in that. Like we try to allow dogs a sense of freedom, but God forbid they try to act truly like themselves. I know some people have hunting dogs and whatnot, but yeah, we have this issue of letting dogs be themselves, but they have the most freedom. But we try to allow snakes to have some type of natural habitat, but in all reality, they're just stuck in a 3-foot box eating frozen rats.
That was this earlier today for me. Ruby and I went for our run, and she's been real well behaved. Like, she's gotten to the point where like there's bunnies everywhere in our neighborhood, and she'll look at the bunnies and she'll be like, I can fuck you up, but I'm chill. And she just runs right with me. Today there was this little bunny, newer bunny, and it just kept serpentining back and forth on the road right in front of us. And I was like, Bunny, at this point in time, you deserve to have your neck snapped. Like, I'm going to let this dog go. Like, she is being so well behaved, but you are running right in front of her.
Teasing her.
Like, literally just serpentining right on the road. Didn't know where to go. Like, all his buddies ran in this yard. His other buddies ran in this yard. And then he was just like, the little scared guy.
Yeah, no.
Shitting his pants.
So the other rabbits had a phone out, get ready to put them on TikTok.
Exactly. Exactly. Hold my beer.
I was like, you deserve to get your neck snapped. I should let this dog go. And she's like running with me, and you could just see it in her face. Like, yeah, dude, be good.
Yeah.
Be good.
Yeah. Yeah, the domestication's interesting. Just even thinking about Kodak and the reasons why he ran away so many times. Like, it was instilled. He was a hunting dog. I always thought he was a hunting dog. He was bred some boxer mix. I always thought, dude, that has like beagle in him or something. There's something where he wants to go and chase and run. And to have a dog that can be a household member of your family, there has to be a level of getting it domesticated. But it's just funny to see how we still try to beat it out of them sometimes. And so it's like, no, you can't. Don't. I know you want the rabbit. You can't have the rabbit. Please don't get the rabbit. And that's all they want. It's all they're built for.
Dude, he had a neck snapping capability.
Oh,
watching him with those toys, some of those toys.
He ruined there was not a toy tough enough for him. They were like,
just him picking up a toy and then just sitting there for like 30 seconds and like, he would just, dude. And then Bunny would have been dead 40 freaking seconds ago, but he's just like, just rip it apart.
Yeah, he was. He had something too. I'm glad he could figure out how to control it a little bit.
Well, that's where like the domesticated, I was sitting there thinking like, at what point in time does like an animal get to a level where you would domesticate it? Like, and thinking about all those like reptiles and stuff that we were talking about, like, do they really need to be domesticated? Like, probably not. Like the snake and that kind of stuff. Like, I feel like, and you made the comment of like, I probably get pretty bored with that, you know, that lizard pretty quick, like to the point of like, do something. You know, wouldn't it be such a cooler experience to go out and see that animal like in its natural environment and just get that, you know, one day, you know, that 30 seconds or whatever it was to see that thing like truly experiencing its like natural habitat? I feel like that experience alone would just like completely blow away ever having this animal in a cage at your house.
That's how I feel about frogs and toads.
Really?
I'd be interested.
Exactly how I feel.
I'd be interested to hear from somebody who had reptiles that could speak to their emotional awareness of like how we spoke to like dogs or cats or your run-of-the-mill household pets. Do they have that type of awareness or the capabilities and we're just not aware of them? I've seen people that have lizards that last forever and they just sit on their shoulder. Like they
That's
love
how
that
we
person.
felt.
That's their person. Yeah, I'm sure that they offer the same thing and maybe I'm just ignorant to it, but there got to be something to it. There's no reason people keep these animals and there's not out of just a fascination factor. Like I feel like there's more to it.
We had ours, if you can imagine kind of where your like cheekbones are around that real estate. It's where their ears were. And there's a special spot near Oscar and Luke. They both loved having that scratched. And then my dad would put Oscar on his head, and he's about my size because my dad was probably 35 or 36 around that time. Then I put Luke on my head. So imagine a shoebox on top of a 30-something-year-old male's head with a tail. And then you have a water bottle on like a 10-year-old's head or like an 8-year-old's head with a tail. And then so they'd be just vibing. And I can't
I
remember.
do appreciate the vibes from lizards. They give off some sick vibes. I want to be like that guy. Just sit there.
Plus, it was around the time of Godzilla, so it was like, we got Godzilla. So it was a really cool time. So I guess I'd probably be around like 6 years old around that time, but it was real cool. So I definitely feel like if we're gonna like shout out to like a reptile, soul reptile, I'd say like, you know, for us it was probably Oscar and Louie. They were, geez, we also had hamsters and stuff, and you know, it's like after having them, they no disrespect to anybody who likes the rodents. Also, that's, you know, seems like a bad term, but it's exactly what it is. Guinea pigs, hamsters, gerbils do not get the same satisfaction as we got from iguanas or dogs or the neighborhood cat or my current cat. You know, just not the same satisfaction.
I mean, we can't even sit here and take away the fact that like all those, I mean, for me, this is me shooting this shot right now at myself, is I can't sit here and take away any of those healing capabilities of those animals, you know, any of these, you know, putting a snake into a cage. Like what existence might have that snake had outside? You know, it wasn't going to get regularly fed and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, if it's taken care of very well, how are we not to say, like, if there's like people out there that are creating these little things with gems and like lead and copper and silver to be able to manipulate and clean your aura, clean your energy, dude, there's no reason why a snake, couldn't a snake, you know, iguana,
like your
a
warmth.
hamster, like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like all of them have those capabilities that we're just, like I said, I'm probably not going to have reptiles anytime soon, but, and I don't intend on it, but I do think they're badass, dude. I
Also,
do think they're super badass.
like you were saying about them liking the healing powers and whatnot, not liking it, but having them, they're cold-blooded. So when they start to, like, you hold them, they're like, this is so great. Like, you know, the oxytocin or the, like, discharging, I'll put the negative charge under discharging. Feeling like the discharging or feeling oxytocin in your brain from cuddling or, you know, holding the animal. I think the cold-blooded ones, like the snakes and reptiles, they're probably loving it double because they're just like, oh my gosh, heater. Like,
Yeah.
you hold them, they're like, oh, this thing is so hot, it's glorious.
Yeah, you're a heating pad. I'm naturally a heating pad, man. Reptiles will love me. So what was Zach got a dog. I got a dog in our like 20s, like a dog that you called your own. So what was the reasoning why you got, like, was there a specific like call to action? This is the reason why I want to get another dog in my life, or what was the thought process after having a dog that you were so connected to? And not to speak for you, but you definitely still have a very special relationship with your current dog. What was the thought process like when you made that decision to go out and find her?
I spent a lot of time with Bosco, and I still feel like I didn't spend enough time with him. And when we were looking at, I don't know how crazy I should sound, but I definitely was not ready for kids yet. And kids was something that a lot of people were transitioning into in our late 20s. A lot of friends started having kids and all that kind of stuff. And I was definitely not emotionally or mentally ready to have kids yet. And I wanted to prove to myself again that I could take care of another animal and that I could actually spend more time and give more of my energy to that animal again. Did not realize that the animal that we were going to get was going to be Anastasia's soul pet. And Ruby is 100% Anastasia's soul pet. And like Ruby and I are close, but like Ruby fucks me up. Like if Anastasia says like attack dad, like she'll come over, she'll start chewing on your arm just like a police dog. Like she has police dog in her. Like if we could have trained her, like I think I still could if I really wanted to, but like I could train her to say sick and she would go grab people's arms and just like rip them to the ground. Like she has that already in her. So to actually truly answer your question, this was like one of those transition periods for Anastasia and I. We took ourselves out of an apartment that was literally the size of our studio right here. And I was like, look, I'm transitioning my life. I just I just got them to give me a 6-figure salary. I want a house. I want to start feeling like I have a house and places to actually store my stuff. I don't have to have a storage unit. I want to have the dog, and I want to start trying to like experience what it would be like to build a household with you. And that's why we got Ruby. We got the house, and then we got Ruby, and Ruby was like can the two of us raise kids together? And that's where it's kind of at for me.
It's funny how they come at a transition period. It's always at some point, for me at least, like with Kodak, it was the same thing. Like I had just gone through and was still going through a shitty illness that kind of debilitated me for months, if not, I mean, it's what, just 7 years later, it's still not real issues, but it's still prevalent. And when Kodak came, that was, dude, I'll be honest, like I couldn't drink much of liquids in general, but when I was, it was a lot of beer and just not spending a lot of time taking care of myself and kind of in a really shitty spot there for a while. And I don't know if that was the major reason why I got him at that time. I think it's just because I missed having a dog. Like my family from day one, we always had a dog. I had Chili when I was younger. Some guy stole him. I'll never forget that day. That ramp, like the wheelchair ramp that was at my mom's house. They said, oh, he ran away. Dude, some guy rolled up to the house while the dog was in the yard and just reached over and grabbed our dog and left. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's whatever. We had Gordy, we had Mojo. Like I had dogs all through my life, and that's just naming a couple. When I got Kodak though, it was like at this period where I don't know if like me getting sick drove me to do it. I think it's something I want to do anyway, but it's funny that getting him got me out of the hole I was in. You had to be responsible for something else. You couldn't just sit there and soak in your own shit. So whether it was while I was ill or 2 years later, I'm in an apartment with him and it's just him and I, and a pandemic hits, and I could have easily sat there through the 2 years that he was around till he passed in 22 of just staying inside, kind of barricading myself in, just like a lot of people did. But he drove me to get the best shape that I've been in years. Outside, constantly out, didn't have a yard, so I couldn't just take the easy road and let him out. I had to walk him. I got multiple people in the neighborhood like, you walk your dog more than anybody has ever walked their dog in this neighborhood. Like he's the one who made that decision. It's not me. He needs to go outside. But it's funny how they're there. And sure, I would have loved to have him around for longer, but it's funny that like when I lost him is at this point where I had like a person I'm very happy to have in my life now. I'm surrounded by people that I love, people like you guys were there for me that night. And like when I got him, it was at such a crossroads, and then when I lost him, it was kind of the closing of a chapter. Yeah, it's very interesting.
It was really cool.
Yeah, it definitely was. And it's funny to see how it may have not been correlated directly with him, but when he was there, there was a necessity for him being there when he showed up, and his duty had been completed when he passed.
And so I've been with Anastasia for 11 years, and this is not me putting her on blast, because homegirl is literally cleaning our entire house because one of my great friends is in town from Chicago, and she is being a badass right now and getting the house all cleaned up.
At Heinz.
For her, yeah, for him to be able to come over, and him and his girlfriend, she is cleaning the entire house. And like when Anastasia and I like got Ruby, neither of us, I mean, she will say, Zach, you were already well organized, well put together, and taking care of your shit. But Haas, we make all of Ruby's food for her homemade. We make homemade dog food. We do that every other week, like cooking. That's an entire afternoon of just cooking for this dog. She buys all the supplements. Ruby's on this like crazy holistic plan. Like these supplements are not cheap. Like she's working her ass off. She pays all the bills around here now. Oh, not all the bills, but she pays all the utility bills now. Like Anastasia has become someone who I am going to be so proud to be in a relationship with for the rest of my life. I'm not married, and people get so pissed off that we're not married and that it's been 11 years of us being together. But like, I don't have to hide anything from Anastasia. Like, that's what makes my relationship with her, and that it's not the same as like whatever a lot of people around me have done. Like, it's our thing, and like she's becoming a badass through this dog, and like I'm watching it happen, and it is so fucking cool. Like, it is so cool. Like, it is so awesome to watch someone go through like a transition in their life and just like, or make like a change. Like, doesn't always have to be a positive change, like where it's like, oh, amazing, but like just some type of change that is in any sense different than what you were doing. And it is so cool to watch, man. And that's like the beauty of like now having Ruby, like watching all of this stuff unfold. And that to me, like, that would be one of those motivations to have a dog, is that it's going to make you into a different version of yourself, because you can't be who you were and have something that you're taking care of.
No, it's like getting a splinter, and the way it forces itself out of your body. Like you have to change. It has to be pushed out. You have to get rid of who you were. You don't have a choice. They're going to make you do it.
You're in the process of getting a dog right now, huh?
So we're kind of in the
Stop
same.
running from children, Brandon. We know what you're doing.
So whenever we were taking notes for this, Zach actually was very helpful for me and where I'm at in my life right now. He mentioned, dog being a very good way to prepare for a kid. And for years, I'd been against it because I was actually someone who was indirectly affected by a couple not succeeding and them getting a dog to test their relationship. And it didn't work. So this dog, Dolly, her original name was Dusty. And when she came to us, she was pretty matted and she needed a haircut. And when we took her to get groomed, it was like, hey, we didn't do this. Like, we're rescuing this dog. Like, she just came out of a relationship with these two owners where the guy ended up taking the dog, and then he had to crate her while he was at work. And he worked like 18 hours a day. So this poor dog like had to just like sit there. So we got her, and we were only going to watch her for 2 to 3 days. So as soon as you bring a dog around 2 to 3 days around 3 little children, now that's your dog. Like, that's just what's going to happen. So it was around July, actually. We're in July right now. So it was around my brother's birthday. Probably right about, it could, to be honest, could be like, today could be the anniversary, the 21st of July. But what happened with her,
context real quick, I don't mean to cut you off. You're young, already having these thoughts of like, when I'm older, I don't want to get a dog potentially because I don't want that dog to, like, if I separate with that girl. You were young and already thinking, wow.
I was young and already in previous relationships, it was like something that was not a good conversation to have with a girlfriend in your 20s. Whenever they're like, oh, let's get a dog one day. It was like, pretty much like, we get married, then I get a dog with you. Because
Yeah.
I don't want to
Lost
see
the
that
one
dog
who did
suffer.
the other end of that, and the relationship failed, but I still have my dog. I would not suggest that to anybody. And not because of like the anything the other person did. It just it's not, there's nothing easy about it. Lost them. It's not a good way to work in your relationship or test the weight of it.
Yeah, don't get it to
There's
test
many
it.
more productive ways to do that. And I don't think when I got a dog, I had a decision to bear with the relationship I was in. It's clear who took care of the dog after. But, with that being said, I think it's just interesting to think about, wow, is this, are we doing this specifically to test who we are? And I would go towards the side of that's not the way to do it.
I would say do not get, it's funny, this is similar to my birds and the bees conversation with my father, but don't get a dog unless you're prepared for that to be like the mother of your child. And if you're not, then don't get a dog with that person or father of your child. That's pretty much my dad's birds and the bees, is don't sleep with anyone unless you're prepared for that to be the mother of your child. Yeah, because that likely will happen, or it can happen. So
Play with fire.
yeah, I would suggest.
That's actually kind of a smooth. I like that. That
Yeah.
was
I didn't
versus
always listen, but
versus my mom that showed me the cleaver and was like, if you get pregnant out of wedlock, this is what I'm going to use on your hang down. Like,
that's hilarious.
that was a whole different card. Like, I mean, I would have taken that. That just terrified me. That actually gave some real solid context.
Yeah, well, thanks for the perspective, Dad. My mom was actually just gonna take a meat cleaver to my John.
We also had Derek and I for North Catholic. It was like hell and STDs if you do it before.
Oh, and STDs.
Like that's all you're getting is hell and STDs. So don't have sex till you're married. And you're like,
I'll
Then-
show you.
yeah. Meanwhile, we had like I don't know, like 3 teenage pregnancies through our high school come out. So yeah, it didn't work for everyone, but
And probably playing quarterback for North Catholic now.
the new one, yeah. But we
So you're young and you already had the idea that when I grow up or I get into my 20s, I'm not going to get a dog with a girl.
until
And
I know.
now you're married and you're
Mhm.
looking at a dog.
Yeah, so now we're like, is it a dog? Is it a kid? We just got a house. We literally just got AC in this week, and then we got our electric redone, so it could support it. So now we're at the stage that's like probably the biggest move is getting AC in the house. So as far as functionality, like the house is like ready to go. But we're also now like, hey, this is a nice time. We get to take a breath. So I'm like pushing for the dog because I'm like, hey, babies are very delicate. I'm still like that person. Someone's like, oh, I want to hold my baby. I'm like, not really. I'll just look at it like a rock. I don't want to hold that thing. It was like, you're not going to break. I was like, watch. I'm holding it like it's a football. I'm like, oh, I got it tucked. Is that good? No one's going to make me fumble. But yeah, so me with babies, I'm like, dogs are a lot more resilient. If you get a puppy, like certainly it's not an excuse to like, be reckless, but if you like bump over a little puppy, you're not gonna hurt it. It's gonna catch itself. It's born pretty resilient. Like after a few weeks, obviously. But the baby, that takes years for it to be resilient and years for you to like understand the responsibility behind it. When a dog cries, part of the training is, you let it cry, let it cry it out, let it like be responsive, but not too responsive.
Last time I checked, dogs don't shit their pants and they have kneecaps on their board.
Yes. And they're almost ready to walk immediately.
Lost them.
And so I generally think now in this point in my life, I kind of, it might not be the way it goes, but I think I'm ready for a dog. I don't think I'm ready for a kid. And I think the reasoning that you provided, I won't go into why. It's pretty much that, a dog teaches you responsibility to care for another living being and learn a lot about yourself in the process.
I got a buddy and he got a dog when we were in college, and that dog just became a piece of work. Like it bit everybody. It jacked everybody up. And I remember he was one of the first people to have kids. Okay. And he would tell you openly that I don't know, maybe he won't tell you this anymore, but back then he would tell you openly that he was a lazy person. He didn't want to do stuff, And we used to go and air our grievances at Festivus, and his significant other would always be pissed at him that he did nothing around the house this year and that she did everything, blah, blah, blah. So when he was about to have kids, I looked at him and I said, hey brother, I love you, man. But like, I think you need to like start like realizing that maybe your entire world is about to change. What do you mean? I said, you're about to have kids. Like, you remember when you got that dog and that dog became an absolute asshole because you didn't do you didn't do all the things that you needed to do with that dog? You gonna have kids that become assholes? And now he's like, dude, I get Snapchats. Like, he's with his fucking kids all the time. Like, he's doing stuff. I have to give him credit. Like, most of us don't understand how he still has a job because he spends so much time with his kids. And like, he's always with them. Every day he goes to breakfast club with them. Like, it's the coolest thing. Like, it is so awesome to watch now. Like, it's just him and his 2 boys. And they're just at whatever he wanted to go to breakfast at for that day. And everyone's sitting there. We're all scratching our head like, isn't he supposed to be working? And like, he always hits me up and he's like, breakfast club tomorrow. I'm like, dude, I have to work. Like, fuck, maybe one day, dude, I'll be able to join breakfast club. He works from home, dude. He does remote. And it's just, he loves to take back company time, he says. Amen, brother. But yeah, like I I just think of that story every time I think about like the kids versus dog situation, and just that becoming a new pet owner. Like, what is it going to take from you to be the best for them? And did you take into any stock, like, oh, my world is going to change. Like, now I have to make sure that I have food for this animal. I have to make sure I do it at the same time every day because they're going to get onto a routine. Dogs are so, especially dogs, massive routine status. Like, yeah. And Ruby, like, when I get up out of bed, she gets up out of bed and she's just staring at me. We going for a run to start the day? And I'm like, Rube, I got to get the shit out, man. I cannot go for a run. And if I don't get the shit out, we are not going for a run because I'm not shitting myself today. And she's just looking at you like, shit yourself. Do I not do it on the side of the road? If I have to go, you'll just go on the side of the road. I'm like, I can't do the same thing as you, Rube. And so it's just like, what are those things you're going to have to do to be the best for them? And I know that when we got Ruby, that was something that I didn't fully take into consideration because I was just like, I've been a great pet owner. Like, I've done this, I'll do this. I'll take, we take our dog everywhere. Like, she comes on vacation with us. Like, we've had her for 4 years now. We've only left her twice. Like, for very short. When we went to Colorado, we left her, and then we left her for one little long weekend trip going down to Arkansas. But she's come on every vacation with us. Like, our vacations are normally camping or something along those lines. So, like, she's always there. Like, I was just like, oh, I'm going to be perfect. And then I get the dog, and, like, she's awesome. She's a great dog, but she is stubborn, dude. She is just like Bosco. Where Bosco, like, you tell those stories, or you told the story about him, like, disc golfing. The one thing about that, though, that was not put into that story was if you called him back, he'd look back at you and be like, nothing going on. Fuck you need me over there for? I'm just sniffing the flowers over here. Like,
I remember that.
and then he just keep walking. You're like, I called you back. Like, nah, he was just like, there's nothing going on here. We're perfectly fine. I'm all right. Chill out. I'm like, gosh, why are you so on edge? I'm the one who's supposed to be keeping you off edge, And he just do his little mosey on thing, man. Like, he's got stories for days. I can't wait to tell those stories. Like, as we grow this into, like, being our actual thing and, like, can finally, like, I don't want to sit here and tell the audience that we're not sharing everything about ourselves because we're going pretty damn deep. But, like, when we can fully share, like, everything, when our jobs aren't, influencing some things, there's going to be some crazy stories that we have for sure. And just, like, he was a character, man. Like, the stories that we have from him down at the Regina house, oh my goodness, hilarious.
He's another one of those animals where you can see some animals, and not that the lights are out or something. It's just that there are a small percentage that I've dealt with that come off like this. Oh, they were a human being in their past life. He's one of them.
Yeah,
he's some ancient sage wizard type. That there was a lot more to him than you would get on the surface.
I definitely feel like he was someone who experienced, like, deeper levels of this experience, or deeper densities that you can get up to and whatnot. Faux sure. Because he was, like you said, he was like some Zen master that was just like, and then he'd just plop down on the couch and he'd just look over at you. And the funny thing about him is he wasn't someone like as big and brutal and scary looking as he was, because people would just shit themselves. Like, we used to walk him down on Carson Street, and just, like, ethnic, like, I don't know how to phrase this, but, like, people didn't like him, like all the different races on the street down there, white, black, no one liked him. They were all shitting their pants. You walk down and they're, oh my goodness, get that dog, pull that dog in closer. And you're like, he hasn't even looked at any of you. Like, holy shit. Like, he don't give a shit, man. He's just out for his walk. But he did let us know a couple of the girls that used to come to the Regina house. There wasn't a ton, but he would growl at a couple of them. And none of and all the guys who lived in that house, not a single one of those guys are with any of those girls anymore.
Nah.
Because he looked at him and was like,
Not me.
energy's off, bro. Energy's off, man. She ain't the one, dog.
Snake in the grass. Snake in the grass.
And you're like, dude, how the hell did you know that? Like 3 months later, I wasn't with that girl. Shit. But yeah, I would say like once you start looking at that transition period of like an animal in general, like what are you gonna do for that animal? Like I would sit here and think that a cat would be something that you would, if you're not going to be there to where you want to do like the walking outdoors and all that kind of stuff with them and exercise, like I would think that a cat would be the perfect situation for you, like especially an indoor cat,
Especially
like,
female cat.
yeah, where you're hanging out, they want to just lounge around the house, do a little playing with the ball and the stick and that kind of stuff, and that's your vibe, and that cat's there, you guys get an emotional connection to each other. I would say that like I would think just about any dog outside of like when you get down into like a Chihuahua or something is going to need a ton of energy released. So like even the smaller dogs that you had, they weren't even little yippy dogs, but they were smaller dogs and they still needed to get their energy out. Like
They need to run. Now there's 3 of them, so they feed off each other.
they just beat the crap out of each
Yeah, they're
other.
just like, I'm bored. All right, I'm going to just go bite you. All right, time to play. Yeah, they just go mess with the other one. They're like, I'm bored. And then they just go over and mess with the one that's like half awake. Poor Gino. He has to be the alpha that's just like puts up with the other ones. He's just like, all right, I guess this is what we're doing today. And then he'll put them in line. He's like, hey, knock it off. We're not doing that right now. And we're like, are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, so they keep each other busy now.
So to finish out today's conversation, I would like to potentially dive into if there's anything that you guys feel that you've learned from the pets from over the years.
Lost them. Yeah, I think I don't know if today's the day, like you said, we dive into everything. Lost them. The biggest thing for me, and I think we'd all probably touch on it, is the ability of the living in the moment. I feel like you're talking about with Ruby, and when you wake up and she's so routine based that her decisions aren't made off of emotion. Like that's her routine. Like I wish I had the discipline of Ruby. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's the one thing of they keep you out of, the self-sulking, I don't feel like it. I'm going to sit on the couch and not exercise or go for a walk. Or it's such a nice day, but I'm feeling lazy. I'm just not going to do it. Like I had to take the dog out. Dog had to go out. So like Ruby, the same way of you waking up and I just don't feel like it. It's whatever. Ruby is already staring. No, you don't have a decision, bro. The decision's already been made. So that constant living the moment, appreciating things for what it is, smelling the flowers and the birds and how much they live for that every day. It's not about what happened yesterday. It's not about what happens tomorrow. It's what's happening right now. If we could all live a little more like that, I think it would be huge for your day to day. And that's what I think they bring to the table is, sure, a lot of our decisions or a lot of what we do and our habits are unfortunately emotional based, but just like you said, the way Ruby looks at you every morning, and she doesn't give a shit. She just wants to go out there and like, cool, today's a new day. We're starting it the right way.
Precisely. I think I really jive with the whole argument there with the dogs. Just kind of, I think about it as dogs. I have a cat, but I think about it as dogs. It kind of connects to our one planet, one internet, where it's like dogs, everything that brings them joy and satisfaction, mostly not like tech related, unless you count like AC inside. Then dogs are all about our like, I was going to die. Thank you so much. But I think they're kind of like everything that brings them joy are the things that are kind of removed from the internet and all
Littlest
technology.
things, yeah. The smallest things will make them happiest.
Yeah, like running outside, like just getting a full sprint. And it's just like, this is what brings me joy, just like full on adrenaline and exercise. And then chasing a ball, seeing a squirrel and just getting like, I think hunters, they get a similar feeling, but they just get the jitters immediately. As soon as you see a squirrel or a rabbit, it's just like their blood just starts boiling in a good way. Just like, oh my gosh, run. And same thing with like being outside, creek walking, jumping in water for the first time, first taste of blood for for my dog Buddy. It was
Totally innocent.
yeah, Buddy was such a tiny dog. He was probably smaller than a rabbit, but he like as soon as he saw one and he had a first window of opportunity, he was gone into the backyard. I'd taste him. I was like, get back here. And then I come back, he brings me half a rabbit. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, poor rabbit. And also like, you little bugger. Like I was kind of proud in a weird way. Like, you can't see it right now, but there's an iPad 6 over here. He wasn't much bigger than that iPad 6 mini. So for him to go after a rabbit, rip it apart, and come back, I'm like, there is no amount of television that could have brought me the joy that did. Him just going for the hunt, the pursuit, and then him bringing it back. He was so proud. He brought that back as a trophy to me. And I'm like, all right, I gotta get rid of this. The funny thing is he also brought it back to my mom. So he brought the other half. But that's what I take away, is that they kind of, the things that bring them joy are kind of the things that fill our needs. And it kind of teaches us how to address the needs that we might not be addressing within ourselves.
Those two 100% on my list. To speak on the real quick, the first taste of blood, dude, we gave Ruby, a guy at work is a hunter, and disclaimer, make sure you are very careful with deer bones because deer bones can splinter very easily. We gave Ruby like a real thick deer bone that had like some meat and stuff left on it, and a live bone, dude. Gave her, she was eating it and crying. She was like tears of just joy. Like she never experienced that. Like, oh my God, all these other bones have sucked ass compared to this. Like, holy shit. Like that was wild. And so for me, my thing was Bosco taught me this, and it was a love and a compassion and understanding for everything. Bosco, like, and this was something that you had said that I solidified this point for me. There's dogs that you watch and like they'll see a butterfly and they'll just start wanting to like eat the butterfly or stomp the butterfly or like step on the butterfly. You know, what is this thing? Bosco was one of those animals that like would see different birds or different like animals or insects or any of that kind of stuff. And he would like ponder it, but I don't recall him ever like trying to like chase after a bee or like do any of that kind of stuff. Cause the one time he did get jacked up by bees, that was insane. His face was wild. But like that to me, like I'm the kind of guy who now, like if I find a stink bug, like at work, like I'll put them on my hand or I'll get them on a piece of paper and I'll take them outside. Like that to me was like where I asked that question earlier, like what level does an animal actually, or like a species become to the point where it like could be a domesticated animal or like treated with that level of respect of a domesticated animal? Because like you see someone kill a dog and you're like, that's the worst thing ever. But you see someone kill like a bug and you're like, good job, you know? Like it's just where's that context actually? Like how do the scales tip to where it's like balance of nature to where like nature eats nature, but also like are we respecting it? Like the Avatar mentality of like killing the animal and like appreciating the animal for everything that they're about to give you, their energy release. Like that to me was Bosco was just like, wow, look at you go. You're pretty cool.
He acted out of necessity and not just because he wanted to show power.
Yes. But whenever like the one time that I dealt with someone who was kind of shitty and he just went, that dude was like, whoa, fuck. It was like, oh shit, you got a dog. And that for me was why I was like, little dogs were not my vibe. And like, I've always had these big dogs because I was like, I want something that I feel like can fuck somebody up. Like who honestly can like really have my back. Like, don't get me wrong. I've seen some small dogs do some crazy shit, and like a Jack Russell Terrier can really jack up he could clip that Achilles heel real easily. But just a big dog just like suits power, dude. Just like stability and just no fucks given, you know, like don't fuck around. Amazing episode today, guys. We got Derek, we got Brandon, we got myself, Zach. And as always, we didn't say this last week, but as always, don't trust us, trust yourself. And this was a great topic on domesticated. Taming a Wild Beast to Love. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for
Later.
joining us.
Peace out, y'all. Thanks again for tuning in to episode 26, Domesticated. Don't hesitate to catch our next installment, episode 27, Remote Work. Did they force you back in? Well, we talk about all those crazy stories from work over the years and that really interesting, weird thing that happened in 2020 that kind of like sent us all back to our house to like work from home. Yeah, that was pretty weird. So we talk about that. Appreciate you guys riding along with us. Thanks again for tuning in. See you guys on the next one.